Good afternoon, everybody. This is just a quick one before I have to go and collect my son from the shops. Finally, indoors something, not just the garden. Had a bit of a chance this weekend and yesterday to do a bit more in the house, and on Saturday I started my batch of vinegar, and I was inspired by Heidi from Rain Country, and this is my first attempt, so let's hope it works. It'll be a month before we see any vinegar there, and already you can see, well, I don't know if you can actually, but there are bubbles. Yes, you can just see the bubbles. There you go. So it's fermenting nicely, and it smells a bit funky, so it must be doing what it's supposed to. I bought a water filter jug today because I am determined to try and use less tap water for drinking and cooking. So we'll be doing that, and I bought a nice big decanter there to pour it in as it's filtered. So we use way more than 2 liters a day in drinking water and herbal teas and cooking and stuff. So yeah, we'll use that. As long as that's used up in 2 days, we're fine. And it was actually worked out quite a bargain, because it works out between £1.87 and £2.50 a month for the cartridges. So yeah, that's today's strawberry harvest from the front garden. It looks yummy, it smells yummy, it tastes yummy. The front garden, obviously the strawberries love it there, because that's how much we got in just one amount, which is amazing. So yeah, tidied up a bit. Windowsill's a bit tidier, but not much happening in the garden. I have done a bit, but I'll show you there anyway. I planted out loads of stuff and sowed more seeds, so we've got quite a few things still going. Very late, but well, in my garden they go or they die, or they grow or they die, and that's it. If they survive, brilliant. If not, then they don't belong here. Oh, look, right there by the chamomile. Can you see right on the rim that little beautiful little beneficial hoverfly thingy there? Lovely. So I've got my marshmallow, and I have another 3 trays over there by the frame. And catnip, chamomile, celeriac, way late. If they grow, they grow. If they don't, tough. Yacon doing fine over there in the corner, also a bit late, but it's warm now. They'll go into pots, and at least then come the winter I can move the pots into shelter if I need to. Jerusalem artichokes growing nicely, broccoli growing nicely. Because I follow Charles Dowding's advice in watering the holes I planted them in instead of watering the ground, and then mulching with loads of compost, leaving it dry on top. And then I also spread some of my dog's hair from brushing her, because it seems to act a little bit like wool in keeping the slugs at bay. And there have been snails and slugs active on the kale there, but not as much over here, because this one's the one that had, by the broccoli, all the dog hair. And so keeping the soil dry, the soil surface, is what helps keeping the slugs a little bit less active. My loofah struggling a bit there. They've had a good feed when I planted them, and I'm just hoping we get a bit more sun to give them more boost. Hanging baskets doing really nicely since I put them up. The magpies are still coming over to pull the fibre out for nesting, but you know, I just popped my head out the window and said I'd appreciate it if you didn't do that, and they fly off. So I'd like to pretend they're listening to me. At least I'm being polite in asking them not to do that. The corn is doing all right. I would have thought they'd be a bit taller now, but I did put them out later. A nice little bit of a thing that I actually finally did this year is put out my oyas, which are terracotta pots, unglazed, sunk into the ground with water. You can just see that. I don't know if you can, the light won't hit it. There's water in there, and it is very slowly seeping through the terracotta into the soil. And it might look a bit dry on that compost, however, move it and it's fairly cool under there and moist. So very deep compost mulching, and having watered the holes that I put the corn in really did help. So they're surviving, even though the blackbirds are digging holes everywhere looking for worms. Look at that. They're pulling the edges of the bed apart. So hopefully, like that side, I can get the daisies to spread right the way along the edge, anchor the bank, and stop the birds pulling all the soil out. The beetroot is doing okay. The onions are fine. They haven't quite bolted yet. So I'm keeping an eye on the watering so they don't dry out too quickly and they don't get too wet. Oh, look at those violas. Beautiful colours. I just left them in between the onions. I've got to put some carrots in so we could get a late harvest of carrots as well. The garlic there at the end doing okay. Sweet potatoes, they're already getting bulk tubers on them. Just pick out these dying leaves. As Charles Dowding reminds us, that getting rid of those also prevents the slugs, because that's part of their function, getting rid of dead decaying stuff. So if we get rid of dead decaying stuff, we'll keep less slugs hanging around. And of course, with sweet potato, these lovely younger leaves and that are good salad vegetables. So dual purpose vegetable, tubers and leaves for salad. I'll just drop these leaves by the tree. Alright, that'll do fine there. The comfrey obviously got very big and has fallen over now, so it's ready. It's time to chop and drop that one and make some more comfrey tea. So I shall do that tomorrow. I was meant to do it today, but that'll wait till tomorrow. The chives need cutting back of the dead ones. There's new ones already coming again. The sweet williams are flowering nicely. This pot needs to be filled with soil ready for the yacon. Callaloo needs planting. The leeks need to go in between the kale and the calendula there at the end. Oh, finally one of the lupins are flowering. That's really lovely. Look at that. Beautiful flowers. I love lupins. Okay, they do tend to go rampant. They self-seed and they're huge big root balls. But, oh, that's fine. Look, sharing with the blackbirds. Buttons, strawberry, come on, come get a strawberry, girl. Sit. There you go. You love strawberries too. Yeah, so the strawberries looking good. My marshmallow needs watering. It's a bit hot here. Oh, they're wilting. I quickly need to water. Yeah, more marshmallow. There's loads of them, so if I lose a few it's not too bad, because there are so many and you only need a couple of plants. But in 2 years' time I shall have a lovely harvest of roots from that. The patty pans are really jumping up nicely here, the plants growing nicely, and on the bottom there, because I only watered it when I planted it at the weekend and just left it. I've not really watered them again, give them a chance to take hold. The black currants on this bush are a bit surprising. These have dried up already and not even ripened, so they need watering. However, look at the size of those compared to on the other bush. These are huge and the birds haven't touched them yet. I'm wondering why, because that's brilliant. But on the other bush they're much smaller and the birds are stripping the plant of all the black currants. So I need to figure out what it is I've been doing there over here in this corner and do it again. The blueberries, oh look at them, also nice and big, growing. They need more feeding to keep them going, so I'll give them some comfrey feed. I've still got tomato feed left from when we had the allotment, so I might just use that up finish, because I've got what I've got from the allotment. I'll use it up finish, but I won't replace it, because comfrey feed is exactly the same thing and I can make my own. So feed them with some comfrey when they've got fruit, started setting fruit in every once a week or so after, and hopefully they'll swell up more and ripen nicely. Last year the birds stripped the blueberries because they were there by the living room window. So this corner doesn't seem to be visited by the birds that often. Hopefully there's enough sun to ripen stuff, but then as well a harvest. So something to look forward to. These trees, the apple trees, are suffering here in the pots because the pots are not big enough for the roots anymore. They've been in there 2 years. It's now time to pot them on in much bigger pots. And of course that costs money. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I prefer trees in the ground. It's where they belong. Less care, less work, and less pest and disease because they're less stressed in the ground. But in this rented property and in the size of it, there's not really an option, so I'm going to have to try and get bigger pots somehow and just keep them going. I made a little bird bath out of a flower tray there, and the birds use it all the time, every day. I have to keep refilling it and they love it. So yeah, keep feeding the birds water. I think they struggle most for water, both in the winter and in the summer. I need to clean out my duck potatoes. Duck potatoes do not like too much fertilizer in there. There is algae everywhere and it kills oxygen in the pond. So I need to pull all of this out, and I leave it there on the side so that all the little critters in there could make their way out back into the water, because there are little insects in there. Some of them might be beneficial, and there are little snails in there. I'm hoping they'll be good ones. But the duck potatoes do not like lots of nutrients, and algae is full of it. Look at that, even the dog likes it. Buttons, what you doing? Oh, and there's mosquitoes in there too, little midgies. Alright, take that out, and you can see already the water starts getting clearer. But the water has evaporated quite a lot. I'm going to have to stick some more in there. There is some part of an oxygenating plant in there, so I leave that there. Hopefully that will counteract the effects of all this algae. There we go, already looking better. Look at that. So I'll just it's quite easy to clear, actually. I have put a bag of straw, bird poop, that doesn't go there, go by the plants. Don't want to feed the pond, only the plants. I tried putting this algae around plants before, but the tree I put it around didn't seem to like it, so I'll just leave it there. When the insects make their way back to the water, I'll stick it in the compost. Yep, look at that, much better already, not so foamy. There we go. Look at that. Hopefully we get a good crop. I didn't even protect these over the winter. Usually you've got to take them out and protect them over the winter. But I didn't. I just covered the bed with bubble wrap and a perspex sheet, and that seemed to protect them fine through the winter, and they're still in the same soil. Oh dear. Yes, but I've got to get in there and clean. That comfrey's got to come off. Too much shade in there. Fish would love it, but I don't have fish. Anyway, I have cut the hedge, that conifer hedge. The clippings went on that path there by the water butt, so I used that. It didn't go in the green bins. I will reuse what I can. These clippings can't. I don't have a strong enough chipper to chip up that wood. Not big enough anyway. So that has to go. There's nowhere for me to put that, and it's conifer. But the false quince full of thorns and that is going in the bin. But all of the privet hedge that we cut, there was a mountain of cuttings here. We shredded them up, and that's practically the only two little piles of shreddings that came from it. So you don't get a huge amount of chippings from even that huge amount of cuttings. So even with this very long hedge that goes right the way across the garden, that is not enough to make enough chippings for this garden. Good thing we know one or two tree surgeons who are sometimes willing to drop stuff for us. What else? There isn't a great deal. Got to cut the lawn. Tomatoes are doing really well, and they're liking the fact that I put the clay clumps in the bottom of the pots, plus all the manure and the compost. So I'm not having to water them too often, and they're really toughening up nicely there. So they're doing good. The potatoes coming out the top. They need one more earthing up and then that's it. Leave them to do their thing. I've already used what little rain we had the other day out the tub. There wasn't much. Oh, and this little haven here with the sheet up. But this time of the day, obviously, there's more shade because the sun's on the other side of the house. But even so, during the day, just sticking that sheet up there with some clamps makes a humongous difference to the temperature under here and makes it a very pleasant place to sit. So yeah, big journey starting. And I was thinking I would talk a bit more in my next video about the zero waste thing, because I've had some thoughts on that and how practical the journey is, and thinking about how I could do that. And there's quite a few little catch-22 situation things, but I'll cover that more in the next video. So until then, enjoy this lovely June weather, enjoy the sunshine, and happy gardening and zero wasting. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.